This episode of The Construction Record is brought to you by the Greater Toronto Sewer and Water Main Contractors Association. Clean water, our goal, our future.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of The Construction Record. I'm digital media editor Warren Frey, and with me I have
Wesley Sessenwein, CEO of PayShepherd.
And maybe just to start out, if you could tell me what PayShepherd is and what role you fill in the industry.
Yeah, thanks, Warren. So PayShepherd is an enterprise level software company based out of beautiful Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And right now, the need we fit is working between contractors and large industrial consumers, like pulp mills, steel mills, power plants. And we help them automate the removal of overbilling from their contract service agreements.
Okay, and maybe you could explain how big a problem that is, because presumably if you founded a whole software company to deal with it, it is a big problem.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you look at a kind of a macro level, at a pulp mill, there's between 20 and $50 million a year spent on maintenance. And that's generally outsourced to really highly skilled contractors that pull from union environments. And with that complexity of work comes an even more complex billing process where you have to consider contracts, union agreements, time on site, specific employee requirements. And historically, a lot of that billing has been done via Excel or even some cases pen and paper, where every day the contractors would need to submit their daily billing for approval to the pulp mill. And by having that be such a paper-based process, there's a lot of leakage that happens, a lot of cost loss. We estimate easily north of 5% of total spend on maintenance is lost due to leakage. So we step in and implement our software solution that removes that leakage and helps everybody maintain a clean contract environment.
Okay, and is it a dashboard or a platform? How does the software work?
Yeah, it's a web-based platform that sits on top of the technology stack that the facility already has. So, for example, we would integrate with an enterprise asset management system or an ERP, as well as their access control system on site. So, in real time, we're then able to pull in exactly who is on site for how long into PayShepherd.
And so construction is well known in the industry and probably outside of it as reticent to change, although that is in and of itself changing now. So what challenges did you run into trying to convince people, instead of pen and paper, I know you've always done that way. Why not do it this way? Like, did you run into challenges with that?
Yeah, great question. So really, I think everybody knows that it's a bit of a broken legacy process reviewing handwritten and Excel based billing. It's just been really difficult to find another solution for it until now. So basically, our sales delivery and motion is built around coming in and looking at an old construction project or an old maintenance event and going and doing a deep dive into the data to find out how accurate is the facility in managing their billing. And sometimes we identify that they do a great job and there's no leakage, and sometimes we identify that there is leakage. And it's when we identify that there's leakage happening that the interest level steps up in how PayShepherd can solve for that lost money.
Okay, and you've mentioned pulp mills. What are some of the key industries that A, took an interest in the first place, and B, you targeted?
Yeah, so the problem that we solve for is consistent across all heavy industry. So that could be pulp mills, steel mills, cement plants, power generation, oil and gas, petrochemical, and even shipbuilding on the east and west coast. They all consume similar heavy industrial trades that operate on an hourly or reimbursable contract, and it's where you have those really large contract sizes and huge amounts of people on site that it becomes very complex to review the old way. That's where we see the value prop come to
And
life.
it sounds like these are big, possibly multinational companies, and you're, not to insult or anything, but you're a small startup, I would assume, right? You're not a huge company. So how did that mesh? Were they welcome to that approach, or did they kind of go for traditional methods first?
Yeah, great question. So, what we've seen is, um, specifically in pulp and paper, there's an autonomy at a mill level to make decisions. And when they see the value, they're able to act on it. So we haven't had any challenges being David and Goliath,
Hmm.
as of yet. We've generally found a good fit within their operations, their IT and security, as well as their procurement groups. We have the benefit of adding value to each of those components within the organization. So it's generally quite easy to get buy-in. Saying that, there's definitely challenges though. Not having the infrastructure of some of the larger, multinational software companies that we're all familiar with.
Speaking of that, there's companies like Bridget and Procore, and I've talked to Bridget and Procore actually is pretty extensively. And what they say, at least Bridget does, is that they want to do their thing, and they want to allow for other people to sort of fit in and modulize and use APIs. And so each of these companies aren't really competing with each other; they're sort of in effect partnering up or like working together on the software level. Is that part of what you do?
Yeah, exactly. So we have our first integration being announced in a couple of weeks with a timesheet solution that's used by contractors across Western Canada. Incredible platform called Digital Time Capture. And basically, we built an integration with them now. They're very popular, and we'll be able to pull data from the contractor systems right into PayShepherd, just to allow for no manual entry at all. Another exciting, we're not interested in getting into the contractor space and building out technology like that. So we'll gladly plug into it to make life easier for contractors and facility owners.
And what was your background? Do you have a background in construction, or did you, because if you don't, did you see something that other people weren't seeing that could be solved?
Yeah, my background has always been in construction. So started off building, working on projects, hospitals, prisons, a lot of public
Hmm.
projects, and then moved in 2010 into heavy industry, oil and gas, mostly in northern Alberta. So pipelines, refineries, gas plants, things of that nature. Had a really good mixed bag of experience, between boots on the ground, pushing crews, and head office managing estimation, project controls, construction management, and engineering teams. So saw and met and worked with some of the best minds in the business over the last 10 years, grabbed a number of them to come along for the ride at PayShepherd. So yeah, my background's always been in construction. It's part of who we are as an organization, even though we're a software business.
Hmm.
Every single person in our company has worn out boots a number of times and has a hard hat in their office. So I think that's part of our unique value proposition when we come in, is we understand what our users go through on a day-to-day.
And not to name names or anything, but I would be willing to bet in the oil and gas industry back then, you did see some practices on pen and paper that made you go, wait a minute, there's got to be a different way to do this.
Yeah, yeah, and thanks for bringing that up. The reason that our business started was manually. So initially, we started offering a similar service to what you would get from one of the large accounting firms, where we would come in and manually audit existing projects. So one of our first contracts was with a large pipeline provider in Western Canada, and we started auditing some of the work they were doing with their contractors, and we'd come up with incredible insights and instances of overbilling, easily north of $100,000 per occurrence. And one of the challenges is we'd present it back to them and say, hey, here's your opportunity to go back and work with your contractor to fix this billing mistake that cost you $100,000. But the answer on their part wasn't always a resounding yes. It was, okay, good to know. This work happened a year ago. The invoice has been paid for 9 months, and currently this contractor is on 10 other sites for us. So if we go back, it may upset the apple cart and not worth the risk right now. So we'll take it as a lesson learned and moved on. And that was a really anticlimactic ending for us in a lot of cases. after putting in such an incredible amount of work. So how we moved into PayShepherd was, okay, how can we automate this audit we were doing manually and take it from a year after the work is done and put it within 12 hours of the work being completed. So now we're not finding $100,000 mistakes every day. We're finding $1,000, maybe $3,000. And it's allowing the people on site to quickly have like incrementally difficult conversations to say, hey, can you fix that? Let's get that cleaned up. Or, hey, you missed billing something. Let's get it all approved. And so we can move on. So you're not having atomic conversations down the line. You're just having little tough conversations on a day-to-day, and everybody wins, because these relationships between contractors and facility owners are incredibly valuable. They've been around far longer than we have, some of them 20, 30 years. Our goal is to come in and really augment the process and to draw on our company name, really shepherd them through the process that's incredibly complex, and just get them from point A to point B in a contract compliant manner in a quick period of time.
And if they're building stuff, that's probably the last thing on their mind. If they've got things to actually build.
100%. Our users, we talk to them every day. So you can find them running down an office hallway, maybe not running, but walking quickly with a flange or a piece of pipe in their hand, trying to go, make sure that something is getting fixed. The last thing they want to do is sit down at their desk for 2 hours a day, take time away from their family to review a bill in relation to a union agreement and a contract and an access control system. It's a tall ask of anybody, and we know that. So by automating this process, our users can literally sit down at their desk and work through hundreds of thousands of dollars in approvals in a short period of time, and they know that when they hit approve on any given item, that it's in the best interest of the mill and the contractor.
Okay, and you mentioned unionized. Did you find there was interest from because open shop is something like 80% of the companies out there. Did you find there was interest in that end as well, or is the union sort of part and parcel of how this thing works?
So our end customers are always the facilities, and then by extension, we offer the platform to the contractors in order to engage with the facility. I reference union because typically the union agreements are quite complex around overtime, standard time, double time, travel, per diem, live out allowance. There's rules built and baked in that are different from region to region, and if you're not building it into software logic to help people, you're relying on each individual person to have an understanding of the dozens of different union agreements and dozens of different contracts. And, very, very, very difficult to have a good outcome in that regard.
So without giving away the secret sauce, how does your software know all these? Do you have to analyze all these documents, or how does that work?
Yeah, basically we build into the back end of PayShepherd the particularities and nuances of all the agreements, and as well as rate sheets. So how much is a welder per hour, how much is a pipe fitter per hour, and then as the data is ingested by PayShepherd, the analytics run over all that data, and when the facility owner logs in, they can quickly see, okay, I have 5,000 lines to review. 100 of them are showing up in red, and let's focus our time on these 100 because there's something that's falling outside of the goalpost set by PayShepherd. So they can approve everything that's green, move on, focus on the items they need, and decide, hey, okay, is this legitimate cost, or do I need to talk to my contractor about it? And they can then approve and reject. And once they do that, it's right through into the payment cycle, and it allows them to get back to the thing they love most, safety, quality, schedule, and not billing.
It sounds like to me you guys all have construction backgrounds, but this doesn't necessarily have to apply to construction. This could be for pretty much any big organization's accounting and sort of monetary back and forth.
Yeah, we know, and I say construction, but I group maintenance in there as well. Maintenance really is the key driver. It's recurring, it's happening every year, whether the economy is doing well or not. But yeah, you're absolutely right. There's broader markets that the technology can serve. Right now, I've talked about pulp and paper. We we really want our foothold in the market, and then we'll get into other verticals, even mining as the next, for example. But as we continue to grow, we'll find new applications and meet new people that can help us get there.
And speaking of growth, I believe you guys are servicing clients in not just in Canada, but also in the States.
We are in Canada right now, and we're going stateside in the next quarter. So
Okay.
Really excited about that expansion.
Yeah, what challenges does that pose? Because it's obviously they've got different rules, different regulations, all sorts of different stuff that you have to know.
Yeah, there's definitely nuances with each customer around security requirements that we have to get aligned with going into a new customer, new area. One of the benefits now with COVID having happened is that, unless you're absolutely required on site, they do not want you on site. So it makes the adoption of remote-based training very simple. And so right now we do all our trainings on a one-to-one basis, 20 minutes, the users are up and running, all done via Zoom, Meets, Teams, whatever the person's poison is, we'll log in and run them through that. All the support is remote, phone-based, email, screen share, you name it. So people are more accustomed to it now, whereas when we did our first deployment, people were really looking for us to be on site in an office setting, training live, and that's not needed anymore. So it increases our scalability and gives the customers quicker results.
I guess that adaptability shows that they can adapt to stuff like this as well. Well, you just said it did. So, but it shows that when faced with a challenge like COVID, construction does kind of step up and do what they got to do.
Absolutely, they get the job done.
And then I guess my last question would be, without giving away any company secrets, what are your plans for the future with PayShepherd?
Okay, so great question. We can see, having digitized the billing process, we are bringing to the surface a lot of friction that happens between contractors and facility owners around payment and approvals. And we can see a future where we understand when the billing is submitted into PayShepherd, whether it's ultimately going to be approved or not. We know if it's contract compliant, if the person was on site, and for how long. So we can easily see a future where we step in and start to ease some of that friction by funding the transactions through to the contractors. It's not, in the next 3 months, but definitely you'll hear some news from us next year as we start to step into more of a fintech model to, start to debottleneck some of the payments for the contractors.
Okay, great. Thanks, Wesley.
This episode of The Construction Record is brought to you by the Ontario Sewer and Water Main Construction Association. Clean water is everybody's business.